I broke up with her after finding out her body count. Before we dive into today's insane story, make sure to smash that subscribe button and turn on notifications so you never miss out. I always thought I had high standards when it came to relationships. Call me old-fashioned, but I believed in waiting for the right person, someone who shared my values and respected the same principles I held dear. So when I met Emily, I thought I'd hit the jackpot. She was everything I'd ever wanted, kind, intelligent, and seemingly grounded in her morals. She talked about her faith, her family values, and how she believed in building a meaningful connection before diving into anything physical. It was refreshing, especially in a world where casual hookups seemed to be the norm. But as it turns out, Emily wasn't who she claimed to be. Emily and I met through mutual friends at a charity event. She was volunteering, handing out food to the homeless, and I was immediately drawn to her warmth and sincerity. We started dating soon after, and everything felt perfect. She was the kind of girlfriend who remembered the little things. My favorite coffee order, the name of my childhood dog, the story behind the scar on my knee. She was supportive, encouraging, and always seemed to know exactly what to say to make me feel like the most important person in the room. But there was one thing that really stood out to me: her values. Emily often talked about how she believed in waiting for the right person, how she valued emotional connection over physical intimacy. It was something I deeply respected, especially since I felt the same way. "I've never been one to rush into things," she said one night as we sat on her couch talking about our past relationships. "I think it's important to really know someone before taking that step." I nodded, feeling a surge of admiration for her. I feel the same way. It's rare to find someone who thinks like that these days. She smiled, her eyes soft. "I'm glad we're on the same page." Looking back, there were signs, little things that didn't quite add up, like the way she'd sometimes avoid talking about her past, or the way her friends would exchange knowing looks when the topic of relationships came up. But I ignored them. I wanted to believe in the version of Emily she'd shown me, the kind, virtuous woman who shared my values. The first real red flag came during a dinner with her friends. We were all sitting around the table, laughing and sharing stories, when one of her friends made a joke about Emily's wild phase in college. Emily's face turned bright red and she quickly changed the subject. I didn't think much of it at the time, but the comment stuck with me. The truth came out one night, completely by accident. Emily had left her laptop open on the kitchen table and a notification popped up from an old messaging app. I wasn't trying to snoop, but the name caught my eye. It was a guy I'd never heard her mention before. Curiosity got the better of me and I clicked on the notification. What I found made my stomach drop. The messages were from years ago, but they were explicit, flirty, suggestive, and clearly more than just friendly banter. I scrolled through the conversation, my heart pounding as I realized this wasn't an isolated incident. There were dozens of similar messages from different guys, all from around the same time period. My mind raced. Emily had told me she'd only been in 2 serious relationships before me, both of which had ended because the guys weren't ready for something real. But these messages painted a very different picture. I waited until the next day to bring it up. I didn't want to accuse her of anything without giving her a chance to explain, but I needed to know the truth. "Emily," I said, my voice calm but firm, "we need to talk." She looked up from her book, her expression curious. "About what?" "About your past," I said. "I found some messages on your laptop last night from a guy named Jake." Her face went pale. "What messages?" "The ones where you're talking about meeting up with him," I said, my voice rising. "And the ones from all the other guys. You told me you'd only been in 2 relationships before me, but that's not true, is it?" Emily stared at me, her eyes wide with panic. I can explain." "Then explain," I said, my voice shaking. "Because right now it looks like you've been lying to me this whole time." Emily broke down in tears, admitting that she hadn't been honest with me about her past. She'd had a phase in college where she'd been more casual about relationships, and she'd been with more people than she'd let on. "I didn't want you to judge me," she said, her voice trembling. "I knew how important this was to you, and I didn't want to ruin what we had." I felt a surge of anger. "So you lied to me? You pretended to be someone you're not?" "I'm not that person anymore," she said, her eyes pleading. "I've changed, I swear." But it didn't matter. The trust was broken, and I couldn't look at her the same way. I ended things that night. It wasn't easy. I genuinely cared about Emily, but I couldn't stay with someone who'd lied to me about something so important. "I can't do this," I said, my voice firm. "You lied to me, Emily. You knew how I felt about this, and you lied to my face." She cried, begged, and promised to do whatever it took to fix things, but I held firm. Some things, once broken, can't be repaired. Breaking up with Emily was one of the hardest things I'd ever done. I'd invested so much into the relationship, and the betrayal cut deeper than I wanted to admit. But as much as I wanted to wallow in my pain, I didn't have the luxury, because Emily wasn't done with me, not by a long shot. The first sign that Emily wasn't going to let things go quietly came a few days after the breakup. She started posting cryptic messages on social media, clearly aimed at me. Some people judge you for your past without realizing how far you've come, she wrote in one post. Guess they weren't as virtuous as they claimed to be. The comments were filled with her friends egging her on, calling me judgmental and hypocritical. I tried to ignore it, but the posts kept coming. Funny how someone can claim to have strong values but can't handle the truth, she wrote in another post. I wanted to respond to defend myself, but I knew it would only make things worse. So I stayed silent, hoping she'd eventually move on. Emily didn't stop at social media. She started telling our mutual friends her version of events, painting herself as the victim and me as the villain. He broke up with me because of my past, she said during one particularly dramatic phone call with a friend. He couldn't handle the fact that I'm not perfect. The lies spread quickly, and soon people I'd known for years were looking at me differently. Is it true? One of my friends asked. Did you really break up with her because of her past? It's not that simple, I said, my voice rising. She lied to me. She pretended to be someone she wasn't. But not everyone understood. Some friends stopped talking to me altogether, and the divide grew wider every day. The drama didn't stop with our friends. Emily reached out to my family, telling them the same lies she'd told everyone else. Your son broke up with me because he's judgmental and close-minded, she said to my sister during one call. My sister, who had always been close to me, was shocked. She called me to confront me, and the two of us got into a huge argument. I can't believe you'd do something like that, my sister said. I didn't do anything, I shouted. Emily's lying. But the damage was done. My family was divided, and the tension was unbearable. The final straw came when Emily showed up at my apartment. I was sitting on the couch trying to relax after a long day when the doorbell rang. I opened the door, and there was Emily, standing on the porch with tears in her eyes. We need to talk, she said, her voice trembling. I sighed, stepping aside to let her in. What do you want, Emily? I want you to understand, she said, her voice breaking. I made mistakes, but I've changed. I'm not that person anymore. It's not just about your past, I said, my voice firm. It's about the lies. You pretended to be someone you're not, and I can't trust you anymore. Emily started crying, her shoulders shaking with sobs. I'm sorry. I'll do whatever it takes to fix this. I shook my head. It's too late, Emily. Some things can't be fixed. She stared at me for a long moment, then turned and walked out, slamming the door behind her. After that, things got even worse. Emily started posting videos online, crying and claiming I'd judged her for her past. She even started a hashtag, #NoMoreShame, encouraging people to share their stories of being judged for their past mistakes. The backlash was intense. People I didn't even know were calling me names, demanding I do better, and siding with Emily without hearing my side of the story. Emily's campaign against me was relentless. She had turned herself into the poster child for growth and redemption, while I was painted as the judgmental villain who couldn't handle her past. But I wasn't going to let her rewrite the narrative. It was time to set the record straight. The final straw came when Emily took things too far. She posted a long emotional video online detailing how I had shamed her for her past and how she was now healing from the trauma of our breakup. The video went viral, and suddenly I was the face of toxic judgment in the eyes of the internet. Comments flooded in, calling me everything from close-minded to a hypocrite. Even people I didn't know were weighing in, sharing their own stories of being judged for their pasts. It was overwhelming, and for the first time I felt like I was losing control of the situation. But I wasn't going to let Emily destroy my reputation without a fight. I decided to tell my side of the story. I wrote a long, detailed post explaining everything, how Emily had lied to me about her past, how she had pretended to share my values, and how her deception had broken my trust. This isn't about judging someone for their past, I wrote. This is about honesty and trust. Emily knew how I felt about this, and she chose to lie to me. That's not something I can overlook. I included screenshots of our conversations, where Emily had explicitly claimed she'd only been in 2 serious relationships and had always valued emotional connection over physical intimacy. I also shared the messages I'd found on her laptop, which painted a very different picture. The response was immediate. People who had been quick to judge me started to see things differently. Wow, she really lied to you, one commenter wrote. That's messed up. You have every right to feel betrayed, another said. Trust is everything in a relationship. Emily tried to defend herself, but her excuses fell flat. She claimed she had changed and that her past didn't define her, but people weren't buying it. Emily's lies started to unravel. Her friends who had been so quick to defend her began to distance themselves. Some even reached out to me, apologizing for believing her version of events. I had no idea she lied to you like that, one of her friends said. I'm so sorry. Even my family, who had been divided by Emily's lies, started to come around. I shouldn't have doubted you, my sister said. I'm sorry. It was a small victory, but it meant the world to me. Emily didn't take the backlash well. She showed up at my apartment one night demanding to talk. You ruined my life, she said, her voice shaking with anger. No, Emily, I replied. You ruined your own life. I just stopped letting you ruin mine. She stared at me for a long moment, then turned and walked away. I didn't hear from her again. With Emily out of my life, I focused on rebuilding. I reconnected with my family, repaired my friendships, and even started dating again. This time, I was more cautious, more aware of the importance of honesty and trust. The fallout from my breakup with Emily was messy, painful, and exhausting, but as the dust settled, I realized I had come out stronger on the other side. I'd learned hard lessons about trust, honesty, and the importance of standing up for myself. And while the scars from that relationship would always be there, they didn't define me. Emily's social media campaign fizzled out once the truth came to light. Her hashtag, #No More Shame, which had once been flooded with supportive comments, became a graveyard of unanswered posts. People moved on to the next viral drama, and Emily faded into the background. I heard through mutual friends that she'd moved to another city, trying to start over. Part of me hoped she'd find happiness, but another part of me knew that until she faced her own issues, she'd keep repeating the same patterns. The hardest part of moving on wasn't getting over Emily, it was learning to trust again. For months, I questioned every interaction, every conversation, every potential red flag. I didn't want to be blindsided again. But slowly, I started to let my guard down. I reconnected with old friends, leaned on my family for support, and even started seeing a therapist to work through the lingering trust issues. You can't let one bad experience dictate your future, my therapist said during one session. Not everyone is going to lie to you. You just have to be smart about who you let into your life. It was good advice, and I took it to heart. About a year after the breakup, I met someone new. Her name was Claire, and she was everything Emily wasn't. Honest, straightforward, and unapologetically herself. We met at a coffee shop, of all places. She was reading a book I'd been meaning to read, and we struck up a conversation. It was easy, natural, and refreshingly real. I'm not perfect, she said during one of our early dates. I've made mistakes, and I've got a past, but I believe in being honest about who I am. It was exactly what I needed to hear. Emily didn't take my new relationship well. She started posting cryptic messages on social media, trying to paint herself as the victim once again. Some people move on too quickly, she wrote in one post, but karma always comes around. I didn't engage. Instead, I posted a picture of Claire and me at a charity event, smiling and happy. The caption was simple. When you find someone who loves you for you, everything else just falls into place. Emily didn't respond, and I didn't expect her to. She was a part of my past, and I was finally ready to leave her there. Claire and I have been together for 2 years now, and things are better than I ever could have imagined. We've built a life based on trust, honesty, and mutual respect. Everything I didn't have with Emily. As for Emily, I heard through the grapevine that she's still searching for happiness. I don't know if she'll ever find it, but I hope she does. Wow, that was insane. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe for more jaw-dropping Reddit stories.